Hello, 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 coaches and leaders. I have I have an amazing guest on me. Jason Adair's on with me. First, Jason and I first met because he was running this amazing conference with SREB, and we geeked out on
Yep.
about stuff. We're like, wow, this is what I'm interested in. This is why we should write a book on this thing. So I love that that's how we connected
Yeah.
initially. And so, Jason, I wanted to have you on the show because we are going to talk about optimism and our thoughts on optimism. And for everyone listening, I sent Jason some articles that I had been reading because I'm writing a book. I actually think this is the first time I'm sharing this on the podcast. I'm
That's
writing a
awesome.
book on the catalyst mindsets and reading a lot about optimism because it is part of the ownership mindset, which is one of the five catalyst mindsets we need to get ourselves unstuck and empowered. What we think growth mindset does, we actually need five mindsets to do. So all of that to say, before we jump in and Jason and I like geek out wildly, I want to welcome you to the show, Jason. I'm so excited you're here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited that we finally get the opportunity to do this. I think we met about a year ago, and so it's taken a little while to get here, but I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so great. Can you just share with everyone what is it that you do in the world of education and leadership?
Yeah, so I'm the director of math and lit or no, of curriculum and instruction at that recently changed at SREB, the Southern Regional Education Board. So I work with teachers across the country and then with a lot of our instructional coaches at SREB.
Hmm. I love it. It's really
Yeah.
great. And
Yeah.
you're kind of like the head person of the every year there's a conference,
Yep.
the a coaching
So we have
conference.
a coaching for change conference in
Hmm.
May of this year.
Hmm.
This is our fourth one, and I help support and run that conference. So it's a
Yeah, I
great
love
time
it.
for
Yeah.
instructional and leadership coaches to get together and really dive in on instructional coaching. And I think you're speaking at that this year,
I am.
which is
I
awesome.
am. Yeah, yeah. I'm so excited. And for everyone listening, this is a conference for you. So I'll put the link in the show notes to learn more about SREB and about this coaching conference
Yeah,
that is specifically just for you, for my instructional
yeah,
coaches and leaders.
yeah. Thank
So,
you.
all right. So we're gonna jump in here. We're gonna talk about optimism. And before we do, I just want to give everyone context here that I talked about the ownership mindset, which is one of the five catalyst mindsets. And there are three elements to the ownership mindset. I've actually been deep into it today. I just brought someone through the whole mindset. And so the three elements are agency, optimism, and accountability. So those are the three elements that make up an ownership mindset. And the ownership mindset is the belief that if I'm responsible, I can make change. I can change things by taking responsibility. So, optimism is absolutely part of it. And I wanted to talk with Jason today and I don't know if we're going to debate. We may just agree the whole time. But I wanted to talk with you about optimism because there's different thought leaders
Yeah.
out there that have loud voices about optimism. And I wanted to talk about how they share about it with you. So, I'm not sure where to start, Jason. What
So
what are your thoughts?
yeah, so I think that there's these camps that sometimes they believe that if I just think the right thing, if I just change my mindset and I'm like I'm pessimistic, all this stuff, and then if I just change and think positively, that's going to make all of the difference. And I think that in education, sometimes the poster mindset says I go into classrooms all the time and it's like think positive,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can do this.
Yeah.
The rah rah, the cheerleader aspect
Mhm.
is I'm not saying it's wrong. It's great,
I think it's misguided.
but it's
I think it's toxic positivity, and
yeah,
I'm going to tell you why.
yeah,
Simon Sinek, his definition of optimism is something like an optimistic person acknowledges that we may be in a dark place, acknowledges that there is
yeah.
a reality here,
There's
that we are
realism.
facing, it's realism. We are facing something challenging right now.
Yeah,
And I believe the future is bright.
right.
I believe it may be a while before we get through this dark tunnel,
Yeah,
right? But the future is bright. I believe something is possible.
yeah. And I love that. That's the like I hear all of the time the like a grading scale of like ABC not yet or something like that. That's like that's a true like as long as the not yet is
Yeah.
and I can
Uh-huh.
get out of the system I'm in of
Mm-hmm.
failure,
Mm-hmm.
that's great. If it's just all positivity and no realism, I like what you said there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just rah rah mentality and the kids I think the kids see through that very quickly and
Yeah.
it falls into you fall into the trap of setting the kids up for failure almost.
For sure. And first of all, I want to acknowledge growth mindset is not a positive mindset.
Right.
Positivity has nothing to do with the growth mindset. So first of all,
Right.
when I see that on bulletin boards, I want to rip it down.
Yep.
And I feel very strongly about this. Second of all, those I really, I'm gonna say it, and you don't have to agree. I don't like those positivity posters.
Yeah.
This is Becca's opinion, not like it's a fact, but I just when I see them, I cringe because I think it's missing that element. My analogy is it's like putting icing on a mud pie.
Yeah.
So we're putting this positive spin on something that we haven't dealt with, right? If we're pretending like this is a cake and in fact it's mud, but like,
Right.
this is great. You'll do great. Believe in yourself. And it's
Yeah.
like, hold on. We have mud.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's like deal with the mud.
Yeah. And I think all the time I think I see a poster like that
Mm-hmm.
and then I see the actions of the teacher
Uh-huh.
and they're not harmonious, right? Like I think of the teacher says all this, the students do some positivity affirming statements at the beginning
Yeah.
of the class and the students buy in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're all up that they stand up, they
Mm-hmm.
say it with authority, and then class starts.
Mm-hmm.
And these little moves that happen in the class
Mm-hmm.
point to the that the teacher doesn't necessarily believe that they can. They
Yes.
they that they make I was in a classroom, student wrote on the board 29 minus 41, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not legal in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
And teacher had a great question
Mm-hmm.
to the class. She said, "Does anybody have any advice for the student?"
Mm-hmm.
And then paused for a second. A few hands went up, and then she said, "Why can't we write 29 minus 41?" And
Mm-hmm.
the first question was brilliant. The second one let him know, gave it away, right? And
Mm-hmm.
let him know. In my mind, it's almost like a unconsciously letting the kids know, or a statement that says, "I don't believe the kids
Mm-hmm.
can do this,
Can
so
do
I'm
it.
going to feed it. I'm going to feed you the answer so that it
Yes.
sounds good." And that's where I really struggle with saying all this stuff and doing all this stuff, and then the actions of the teacher, the
Hmm.
evidence, the impact is it's not there.
Yeah, yeah. And I think going back to even like what Simon Sinek says, it's optimism is acknowledging the reality of what's happening
Right.
right now. And I think there's a couple kind of major thought, there's a few major thought leaders in this optimism realm. Well, there's Martin Seligman, who may have coined optimism. I'm not sure.
The thing yeah, he coined, it wasn't
He did.
optimism, but it was learned helplessness and then
Yes.
learned the opposite of that was learned optimism.
Optimism. Okay,
Right.
okay, cool.
So we've
So
all heard learned helplessness
yes,
as we watch
we
kids
have.
are like, "I'm not a math person. I can't do," right?
Yeah,
And all that and he
yeah.
kind learned optimism because he was tired of being pessimistic.
Yes, right. So so his is optimism versus pessimism.
Yes.
And so his school of thought is right now, this is from my reading, and I
Yeah.
would love to know. So Jason and I kind of read similar the
Yeah.
research studies. So I would love to hear your thoughts. But when I was reading his research, it felt like he was saying like people that are optimistic think positively now.
and that can change and make immediate changes.
Yeah.
And I think he's missing that realism piece that Simon Sinek
Exactly.
brings
Yeah,
in.
because he only has optimism versus pessimism,
Right.
right? There's no
And yeah,
realism. Yeah.
and I think like if you there's that old post, and now back to posters that are, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're probably right.
Yeah,
And I mean, there's value to that, right?
for
Like the
sure.
second you start thinking negatively,
Right.
or I think about, like, my thought process is I'm not a math person. That's what I hear in
Hmm.
my field all the time.
Hmm.
Kid, parent, adult sitting next to me on the plane, when I say I work with math teachers, like, I'm not a math person. That is a
Hmm.
pessimistic statement, and it's a all-encompassing statement.
Hmm.
And Seligman talks about that.
Hmm.
That's toxic, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the only way you can become I can't, if I just change my mindset, not growth mindset, but my mindset, and say, "Oh, I am a math person."
Yeah. That's also
That does
fixed,
not
by the
make
way.
me that
Yeah.
does not make me a math person. It's the
Correct.
hard work
Yes.
that comes behind it that makes me a math person.
Yes. The
And
actual
that's
experience of
right,
success.
right. And the realistic outcome at the time, it has to say, I'm not very good at math
Right now. Yeah.
yet,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
change my future. And
Yeah.
and that's that positivity that Simon Sinek talks about. Is I'm not I'm eating, I like what you said, I'm eating mud right now,
Yeah.
but I know how to make a cake. And so
Yeah.
I'm going to change my future.
Yeah, nothing changes if we're just glazing over everything
Right.
with positivity. We have to
Right.
acknowledge what's
Right.
actually happening, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, in schools, that can look like looking at the data, like
Yes.
having an exit ticket, right? So
Yeah.
that could be one way, but really, and as a staff, like talking about the reality of situations,
Right.
our human brains, we do not like uncertainty,
Mhm.
and unacknowledging we're going through a tough time and we don't know how long this is going to last, right, creates uncertainty in our brain. We don't like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
And it's important for us to do still. And I was dysregulation tolerance. I was reading something today around, like, we need to grow our dysregulation tolerance, our
Yes.
discomfort. I think it's called
Yep.
discomfort tolerance,
Yep.
which feels a little better, but discomfort's still dysregulation.
Right.
Come on,
Yeah.
but yeah. So right, so it's part of Ooh, I'm making a connection. Part of optimism is being able to tolerate discomfort.
Right. And that's how you build resilience, right? And
Yes.
and all of those things. And so when we have this 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 uncomfortable situation,
Hmm.
and we start to get more comfortable with it, that also builds our, oh, I can, our
Hmm.
efficacy and all that stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, so I can do hard things. So I
Yeah.
can struggle through a problem and not give up. And it works. And
Hmm.
then that optimism
Hmm.
is based in reality.
Yeah.
I'm not just giving everybody a trophy.
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
kids, like, the kids know
No.
it when it's fake.
No. Yeah.
And like,
Exactly.
you got a 8% on your test, and you're like, yeah, think positive. No, they know they
No.
got an 8%, right? Like, you can still spin that. Rita
Yeah.
Pearson has a great video on that, but you can still spin that into, hey, but you got a 0% last time. You are growing,
Yeah.
but you're still not there.
Right. Right.
That's
Right.
the piece, maybe Seligman's theories
I think
leaves
it's
out.
missing. Yeah. And I
Right,
think,
right.
if we look side by side, Simon Sinek and Seligman, right? Seligman's like, this is what I read, being positive now, be positive now.
Hmm.
And it's like Simon Sinek's like, no, no. He calls it blind positivity.
Yeah,
He's like,
that's right.
don't be positive now. Get the reality of now.
Hmm.
And so when I boil optimism down, what I say optimism is believing something's possible.
Right. I love that. Yeah. Yep.
We're
And
believing it's possible. Yeah.
it's probably going to take work,
It does.
right?
Yeah.
And
And it does. And
and
it usually, if I am not optimistic about something, if I do not believe something is possible, it will take some form of reframing. We
right.
actually, to see possibility, when we are seeing something a certain way, of blinders, we're like, this is the only way I can see it. right? But if I have to like reframe, I have to see something differently to be able to see new possibilities. Because in any situation, there's an infinite number of possibilities. We just can't see them.
Yeah. I love that statement. And if we can change students, it could be teachers'
Hmm.
outlook on
Hmm.
I can impact the future of these
Hmm.
children or whatever, that collective teacher efficacy that
Hmm.
is the biggest thing that causes growth in um, impact in schools
Hmm.
or effect size, according to John Hattie's research. But it happens only, I can believe I'm effective and I
Hmm.
can cause a year's worth of learning for a year's worth of effort.
Hmm.
But that requires work on my part
Action.
and action. And and there's evidence of impact, and that's what sustains it, right?
Exactly.
Is
Yeah.
is
Not
is
blind
that
belief.
belief. It's not blind optimism. It's
Uh-huh.
the belief that I can change things and
Yeah.
then actually doing it, actually doing things.
Yeah.
And that's why I was thinking there's every teachers make moves all the time that
Hmm.
either move towards
Hmm.
that or away from that. And
Yeah.
and they communicate to kids all the time. I watch kids when teachers do certain things, and I can see their shoulders
Yeah.
slump, or
Hmm.
I can see them get feel empowered.
Hmm.
And those are the moves that tell me that it's not just positivity now, it's positivity in the future. And that's so exciting when teachers do that and kids
Hmm.
start
Hmm.
to to feel that belief. You see it in the classroom. Those are powerful classrooms. And that's what we really want to create, right?
Hmm. For sure. And part of Bandura, right?
Yeah.
Our efficacy guy.
Yep.
How do you like made it cool and popular? But Bandura was
But
the
Bandura started
OG.
it. Yep.
OG. And do you know he, by the way, I did some research. I'm like, is he still alive? He died, unfortunately,
Yep.
2021.
Yep.
I feel like the pandemic was happening and I missed that. I'm
Right.
very
Right.
sad. But
Yeah.
he died at the ripe age of 91,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he was writing like research papers
Yes.
in his 70s.
Right. Right.
Holy
Yeah.
moly, Bantura.
Yep.
I'm a fangirl
Yeah.
of him. I love him. So he has these four, what is it, key sources of self-efficacy. I actually identified two more
Okay.
that so I have six key sources of
Cool.
self-efficacy, but there's a couple that you're really speaking to that I want to name. One of them is mastery experiences, right? So
Yep.
we have to actually experience success to believe something's possible. And by the way, yeah,
Right.
so there is action around building
Right.
these beliefs. I
Right.
have so how can I experience something different is I usually have to have someone walking alongside me, supporting me in doing
Yes.
something different. I
Right.
have to have I have to have feedback that tells me to do something different. I have to have someone co-teach, right? A different result actually has to happen
Yeah.
in the
And
world.
that's the coach, right? Like a
Yeah.
coach's job is to accelerate improvement, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what a good coach does is they look
Yeah.
at something, they see something and then they come alongside you,
Yeah.
help you through it,
Yeah.
accelerate that process might have happened anyway naturally, but a coach accelerates that.
Yeah.
And then they see the positive impact, like, oh my goodness, I mastered
Yes.
something. I'm better at something.
Yes.
And it worked.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Right. And so, like building efficacy, there is a kind of verbal component. So sometimes, like, it's interesting. We've now gone into efficacy world. I love this world. I'm very happy to be
Yeah.
here with you. But there's a verbal component, a kind of like feedback. We're talking about things, right?
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes you have a teacher that says the kids can't do it.
Yeah.
And then what do you do with that? I'm actually curious because I know I have my own strategies. What do you when you're coaching a teacher and they say, well, the kids just can't do it. They can't handle that.
Yeah.
What
All the
what
time. I love it.
what what do you
It's
what
my
do you
favorite thing.
say?
I'm like, let's go try. And so I'm like, how about
Great.
we go do it? Right. Like I
Yeah.
remember we were in a professional development,
Yeah.
threw a problem on the board. They're like, there's no way my kids could do this pre-calculus. I'm
Hmm.
like, challenge. Basically, I'm like, challenge accepted.
Yes.
And we go and I'm like, can we just go into your room? Or like in this one, I went into a sixth grader. This was a pre-calculus teacher that said the kids couldn't do it. I just
Hmm.
went into a sixth grade classroom, had the teacher film it. We did it with them. And I'm
Yeah.
like, if the sixth graders can do it, your kids certainly can. Like I
Hmm.
think the important thing is to through experiences. Well, can we try it?
Yeah,
How about we just try
exactly.
it? How about, do you want
Exactly.
me to model? Do you want me to be in the classroom with you? But
Hmm.
I remove, as a coach, I remove the barrier,
Hmm.
right? If you believe the kids can't, and I believe they can,
Hmm. Let's
or
try
like
it.
when I'm modeling all the time in a
Hmm.
classroom, I'll do something
Hmm.
and I don't know the kids. And so
Yes.
I'm calling on kids, and then at the end, they're
Like,
like,
oh,
man, I never thought the kid could do that. I couldn't believe you called on
yeah.
that. I couldn't believe you called on that kid. I'm like, and so then as a coach, I have to ask the question, well, what does that communicate to you?
Hmm.
And the reflective teacher communicates. He's like, I've been shortchanging my kids because I have this thinking about them. I'm
Hmm.
like, great. I'm really glad you got that out of that. And you were bold enough to say it,
Yeah.
because that is a threatening question potentially, right?
Hmm.
And a threatening statement. When a teacher says my kids can't, I
Hmm.
mean, that's nails on a chalkboard to me,
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
because it just, like, you're writing off your kids
Hmm.
without, like, that's a deadly belief system for a teacher. Or even when they're in the teacher's lounge talking together and it starts
Hmm.
to, this spiral happens.
Yeah.
That's that's
Yeah.
tough.
It
And that's
is.
a tough, but it's something, there's some things when discussions happen, I don't fight it. That one,
Hmm.
every time I fight it,
Yeah, for sure.
right?
And I just want to say, like, you brought it into action, and it's
Yeah.
I actually do something similar when I see like efficacy is missing. I'll say, hey, I usually I make sure trust is there,
Yep.
and I say, hey, can we try it? So I do my best just to be like, let's do it. We're going to do it together.
Yep.
You're going to do it. I'm going to support you. I may do kind of side by side coaching. I may model, but something's going to happen in the world different. It's not just me telling you
Yep.
to believe. You're going to see something different. You might observe it, observing a model. That's one way to build efficacy. Experiencing yourself. And then one of the elements that I don't think Bandura really calls out that like I kind of have in
Yeah.
my own model is attribution. This is attribution theory. And it's not
Okay.
only do one thing I say is success doesn't shift your mindset, it's reflecting on success that does.
Love that.
And so not only do I need to not experience success in this way, I have to attribute it to something I did. Because if I don't purposefully do that, I could attribute it to because Joe wasn't here today.
I
They were
love
just having
that.
a good day.
Yeah. That's interesting. So let me run this little scenario by you.
Okay.
So I was in a classroom.
Yeah.
They were doing this, the district's big on, I don't know if you've done anything with building thinking classrooms, but it's got posters on the wall and the kids stand up and do things on the posters on the wall and they can look at each other. It's cool. Teachers like, so I did it with the kids
Hmm.
in her room,
Hmm. Hmm.
and she comes out and she's like, feedback time.
Hmm.
There's no way. There's no way that would work with my kids. I didn't even know how to respond. I'm like, we literally
But it
just did
did.
it with your kids. But then 3 weeks later, I was at the school. She reflected on it. She did it, but the attribution was I couldn't do it. Like, for her was I couldn't do it. Like, Jason could do it with
Yes.
the kids, but I
Yes.
couldn't do it. Once she actually did it with the kids, then now she could attribute it to her and not
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
And that's all the difference, right?
Hmm.
Is the excuse wasn't, well, that Johnny wasn't absent. It was, well, you did it,
Hmm.
but we needed to do it with her.
That's why we need to be very
Hmm.
careful with modeling.
Right.
I often, I mean, part of my workshops with resistance,
Yep.
I'm like, stop modeling for them. I'm not anti-modeling. I'm actually very
Right.
pro-modeling, but not for everyone. Modeling
Right.
is not appropriate for everyone.
Yep.
Modeling is a skill. Uh, uh, what do you call that? A skill support. I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
supporting you in building skill
Right.
and not necessarily a will
Right.
issue, right?
Right.
And so observing, and that's a great like
Yep.
example, right? You modeled for her and she saw success. She
Right.
observed success.
And she still didn't think
And
it
she
could
was like,
work.
nope.
Right. Right.
Until she did it. So
Yeah.
that was really great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this is so interesting. I love tying optimism to efficacy.
I do too.
One last little piece that you and I kind of briefly talked about was hope is action oriented.
Hmm.
And hope is a very important part of optimism. but it's not blind hope. It's not, oh, I just hope it's not airy
Right.
fairy. There's three elements to hope. There is, I have a goal, right? I know what direction I want to go in. I see multiple pathways to get there.
Yep.
And I believe that I can stay on track, or I know it's actually not believe. I know I can stay on track
Yep.
to get there, right? So it's those three elements. What are
Yep.
your thoughts about that?
Yeah. So I love that. I think of I recently read Atomic Habits by
Oh
James
yeah,
Clear,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
right?
love
And
that
he
book.
says right, and he says in the book, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
think about this hope, those three aspects
Mm-hmm.
are all about have a goal and then put the system in place
Mm-hmm.
to achieve that goal. And that's really what hope is. It's
Mm-hmm.
not blunt. Like lots of times, I mean, I've also heard hope isn't a plan, right?
Yeah.
Hope is only hope is only hope when it has the plan
Mm-hmm.
and then the systems
Exactly.
behind it to achieve that plan. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a I'm going to run a marathon,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't even own running shoes, right?
Yeah.
You got to put the system in place that goes behind that. And that's what really I hope to run a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
That's only going to happen if you
Buy the
follow all
shoes and
three
you,
of
yeah.
those steps and it's
Mm-hmm.
not just
Yeah.
me sitting on a couch watching marathon movies, a marathon
Yeah.
of Netflix, something like,
Yeah, and it's,
right,
I'm thinking about like teachers that don't have hope that
right,
kids can do something, right? Well, they
hmm
just can't do it, right? They're lacking hope. And what
right,
element most often people are lacking? They know the goal. I need my kids to blah, blah, blah,
right.
right? To achieve this thing.
Yep,
But if they don't have hope, my kids can't do it. They're missing multiple pathways to get there. They
correct.
think whatever pathway they have tried,
Doesn't
right,
work.
to do the thing didn't work, then they lose hope. They don't see that
Right.
there's actually multiple ways to achieve this. And that's where us as coaches come in
Yep.
to say, hey, let me show you. Let
Yeah.
me show you
And
other
well,
ways.
and that ties back to the the cognitive it wasn't cognitive dissonance, but
The dysregulation
the
or the or
dysregulation, right?
discomfort.
That
Yeah.
their discomfort
Mm-hmm.
with
Mm-hmm.
that one way didn't work.
Yep.
So
So I give up.
I feel discomfort
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
and my brain almost goes to, oh, I'm supposed to give up now versus
Yes.
there's another path.
Yeah.
That I could there's got to be another way. Let me talk to some people. Let me
Yes.
go to my coach. Let me do some things. Then we work our way through that. Then
Mm-hmm.
you build that resilience. You see an outcome. You put a system in place. Boom,
Mm-hmm.
your kids hit the goal.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly it.
Yeah,
And this is the last thing I'm going to say, and then we have to
yeah,
wrap up,
yeah,
unfortunately. Um, I want to talk to my coaches and leaders about the hope you have for your teachers. And we're talking a lot about teachers having hope for children. Sometimes I'm in schools where I have coaches that say, "Well, that teacher will never change.
yeah,
She's just waiting for retirement." He whatever, like people, they have a statement, he's just lazy.
yeah.
And sometimes we say it, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we pretend like everything's great, it's fine, I'm fine, and secretly you're like, he's freaking lazy. Or they
Or
don't,
the
but
action is you put them in the you try to hide the teacher in a program that isn't accountable or something like in a course that's unaccountable or
that's
something like that.
exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And my call to action for everyone is own optimism as with your teachers too, right?
yeah,
Believe it's possible, right? So go through those three elements of it. What's your goal for the teacher? What are multiple ways of getting there? If you don't know multiple ways of impacting a teacher, talk to people, access
yeah,
your community,
yeah.
brainstorm, right?
I
And
love that.
stick
Yeah,
with it.
this isn't just this isn't advice for teachers to students. It's for principals or coaches to
Mhm,
teachers. It's for district level and administrators to principals. There's
mhm,
always this, well, you don't
mhm,
know that. Fill in the blank. That would
mhm.
never work with that.
Teacher.
You fill in the blank.
Mhm,
Teacher,
mhm.
principal,
Yeah.
coach, whatever. I'm like, that's the mentality
Mhm.
we need to get rid of in education. If we
Yeah, for
bury
sure.
that,
Yeah.
that'd
We're
be
unstoppable.
amazing. Right, right.
Unstoppable.
Those are powerful schools where they've buried that phrase basically, or
Yeah,
powerful districts where they've buried that phrase.
exactly. I love
Yeah,
it. Oh my gosh. Okay. Jason, this is so much fun. Thank you for geeking out with me.
I love it. Loved it. Thank you
So
for having
great.
me. I really appreciate it. This was a great discussion.
Yeah, it was. Where can people find out more about SREB, and
Uh,
all the things you guys are
Yep. So
doing?
we have a website,
Mhm.
sreb.org,
Mhm.
and please visit us there. We have a couple conferences that are great for coaches. One in May, and then one in July for groups of teachers, principals, schools. That's great. That one's in New Orleans. Are the and the coaching conferences in Atlanta.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you for having me.